Welcome to Rapid Harmony. I'm Kyle Emmanuel Brown. This is a space for high achieving souls who want more than outcomes. You want resonance, you want truth, you want a life that moves with purpose instead of pressure. Here, we explore success with the soul and direction with depth. We slow things down just enough to hear your own wisdom again. We breathe, we question, we remember the part of you that never needed permission to leave. Every conversation is an invitation to trust yourself more than the noise around you, and live from that clarity that rises when you stop forcing and start listening. Take a breath, settle in, let's begin. So, why is it that the person we love the most becomes the one that activates our deepest wounds? It's kind of like two-part. What if that's not a problem that we need to fix, but the path that was trying to grow us?
Yeah, I'm with you, Kyle. It's the path that needs to grow us. That's how I see it. It just seems, I don't know, the cosmic mystery of it all, how out of 8 billion people we find the one person that's going to remind us of our family, right? And trigger us into our childhood patterns and defenses and strategies. I don't know, but I completely trust it because it helps me grow.
I love that. You got to trust it. That's the most important part. Yeah. And stay the course. So have you ever noticed that the person that you love the most is the one that triggers the most? And there is a reason. And it's that emotional intimacy isn't just closeness. It's a spiritual path that exposes every unhealed corner inside of you. So in this conversation, you're going to learn why intimacy can't exist without emotional self-trust, how conflict can become the doorway to deeper connection, and how relationships act as mirrors that guide your personal growth. Now, today's guest, this is someone I consider one of the most important voices on the planet when it comes to emotional intimacy and relationship mastery. He isn't just teaching communication skills. He's redefining how we love, how we repair, and how we grow inside the relationships that matter most. He's the founder of the Relationship School, global leader in relational education. He's trained thousands of people on how to turn conflict into connection, how to build real safety, and how to show up honestly without losing themselves or their partner. When therapists need support, when leaders hit relational ceilings, when couples are in gridlock, they call on this man sitting right in front of me. His work has shaped my own journey, and I featured him in my new book, Total Self-Trust. This is someone who continues to raise the bar on what healthy love and emotional maturity look like. Please welcome the man who's helped more people get to zero than anyone I know, Jayson Gaddis. Thank you for being here, brother.
Yeah, man. So psyched to be here.
I'm happy to have you. And, relationships are a really interesting thing. They're, again, I think the greatest of spiritual schools. And I'm curious, from your journey and your experience, what does emotional intimacy as a spiritual path mean to you?
Yeah, so many things. But as we said in the beginning there, it's like growing ourselves up. So it's a path to human development, like moving through our childhood into adolescence into adulthood. If we enter adulthood and we're emotionally immature, our closest relationships invite us to grow up emotionally and become emotionally mature. So there's a developmental path there, but there's also the spiritual path that you're sort of speaking to, which is, I think it helps us become more of who we are.
So why do you think that these relationships show us, who we are and the parts of ourselves we'd rather avoid?
Yeah, it's a big question. I don't know, just because that's how it is. That's how I experience it. There's this just incredible opportunity to use our activation from our partner as fuel, as a mirror, as a force for development. My wife, I've been married 18 years now and together off and on for 22 prior to that. 22 total. We had some breakups before marriage. And, hands down, she's helped me and pushed me to grow more than anything else in my life. And I was a hardcore meditator for years. And meditation, I love it. I'm still a meditator, but my marriage is what pushes me to develop and grow the most.
I love that. It's the embodiment of what you gain from the meditation, which really lengthens the fuse for the patients for the actual school. And I think a lot of, people like us and the high achievers listening to this, episode, I feel like we signed up for the expert level of the video game of life, right. Where it's totally. Like, you could sit and meditate in a cave and just be at peace and have people come to you from different places and you give them insight and input, but are you actually embodied doing the human thing, doing the high achiever thing, doing the parent thing and the husband thing? What got you started personally on this path? What got you into a place where you're like, man, I'm not just Jayson the athlete, but I'm going to be Jayson the guide?
A lot of pain, a lot of depression and anxiety. Just feeling off, most of my life. And you write about this a little bit in your book in terms of the two sort of selves that we might have. And, from a very young age, I cut off from my essence and became who my environment wanted me to be or needed me to be. And I didn't know that was really a choice until later on. And that gap between who I really am and who others want me to be just created a lot of suffering. And it was in my intimate relationship life that kind of put the pressure on that, where, because intimate relationships force the truth out, right? Emotions and pain and like triggers, it just comes to the surface. And I didn't like any of that. And so I would push the woman away. I'd go grab a beer and I felt better. So I concluded it must be her. When I didn't have the awareness that, no, she's activating something in me that's about me.
Yep.
Right. And so I kind of pushed that away for 10 years. And then at age 29, I was just in enough pain, Kyle, that I was like, okay, I was breaking up with another good woman. I was like repeating another pattern. I was in my stuff again. And it felt boring. I was like hearing myself say the same old thing. It's her fault. It's not me. It's you. And I've realized like maybe I actually am the problem. And if I can do something about that, then I will do something about that. And everything started to change.
Was there a specific moment that cracked you wide open?
Yeah, it was literally in the Whole Foods parking lot with this woman in her Subaru. I was in the passenger seat breaking up with her. And she's in tears and I'm like, here I am again, breaking someone's heart. And I felt so bad and so awful and I wanted out of it. And I said to her out loud, maybe it's me, not you. And I used to say that, but it was a cop out, as like trying to be the good guy. But I actually would take no responsibility. But this time I said it and had a zing. It just had a click to it. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, maybe it is me. And she was like, you think? And I drove away from that conversation like liberated, not because I weaseled out of another hard conversation, but because I was onto myself.
That's profound. And that type of radical responsibility usually actually ends up becoming more attractive to the partner that you're breaking up with in the moment. You go, wait, he's taking radical responsibility. It's a great.
Good point.
So you've been in the relationship business a long time. What do you think is the real reason why intimacy collapses?
There's a lot. But one of the big ones is people are not able to handle their own activation nor handle their partner's activation. They don't know what to do effectively once they're activated and triggered. That's one of the big ones. Another one is people buy into fantasies about long-term relationship, that they're supposed to be easy if you find the right person or the one, which is just not true. And people don't have a view of like, oh, you build a successful relationship, you don't find one. And so that's going to require effort and teamwork and collaboration. And so people are just really naive going into marriage, for example. Yeah. They just don't know what they're getting into. And it's a humbling experience to have the honeymoon stage wear off, as you know, and to sober up and be like, oh shit, this person's hard. I'm hard. What do I do about that? What do we do about this? Gosh, how do I learn? I didn't know my whole childhood would start to emerge in our relationship, and I'd start to play that out with you and act out and be kind of a jerk and shut down and dissociate and blame and defend myself. People are just not ready, kind of bottom line.
Well, it seems like those who do take a self-mastery path or a self-empowerment path, parts of that it usually involve, facing their divinity as well as facing their shadows. But a lot of what you get into is also where do the couples coincide in this? And what do you see when one person is on this path of like, I'm going to be the best and highest version of myself, and the other person is, really focused and embodied in the moment of just going through life, and life happens to me?
Yeah. That's a really hard situation, as you know. Yeah. I like to back up and ask kind of a diagnostic question for the listeners is, can we talk about it? Can we talk about our relationship? Can we just have an honest conversation about where we're at? Hey, I'm noticing that something's not working with us. And if you can't have that basic conversation, that is very diagnostic. It says, wow, I'm with someone who is not really into growth and development, who doesn't see this all this pain and frustration as an opportunity, who wants things to be easy, and geez, I'm not like that. What are we going to do about that? And I might have to make some hard choices. But because if you want to get anywhere in that dynamic, you have to talk about it. You just have to put it on the table. Hey, I noticed something. I want to go to therapy or coaching. You don't. You think talking about it is very triggering and it's just drama and we shouldn't even talk about our problems. So wow, we're really misaligned. Is that what you see? What do you see? How do you see this? And so that we can at least try to get some kind of shared reality about the difference that you're talking about there, because then we can do something. And maybe it's okay to break up and not be with that person forever if it's a big misalignment like that.
I think that's really insightful because so many people, most people, I think, celebrate longevity, right? Like not only longevity in life, you made it to 80, 90, 100, but longevity in relationship. Like they've been married 20 years. They hate each other's guts,
right?
Sleep in different rooms, don't enjoy each other's company whatsoever. But hey, they made it 20.
They're still together.
Right. That's fantastic. Yeah. And they're not even going to sit together and share the cake.
Yeah.
So I think one of those pieces comes from self-abandonment, and that self-abandonment destroys connection. So for example, when a partner feels like I just need to persevere, make it to the place where we get through the raising of the kids stage and whatever, and then I can leave them. That's a pretty intense, difficult, but common thing that a lot of high achievers deal with, especially because a lot of the high achievers are focused on the other side of it, which is like, I'm just going to make the money. I'm just going to build this. I'm going to build our empire. Then all of our problems will go away.
Right.
How would you address that?
Well, you touched on an important point there, the self-betrayal that both partners could do there to stay together, quote, for the kids. There's a number of things in there. High achievers in general, men, if we want to just be really gendered about it, tend to think that love is a performance game, another data point, another metric, like another KPI. If I provide X amount of dollars, and if I work X amount of hours and I've had X amount of external success, she'll be happy or we'll be okay. And I get it. Like there's a understandable nature, especially if you grew up without resources, that you want to be financially secure. But meanwhile, are you going to let your marriage or long-term relationship erode while you're over here working on the business and working to change the world or whatever you're doing? I don't think that's a good strategy. And the woman in that case is like, there's a few different kinds of people that would stay with that kind of partner. One is they're really liking the financial security and they've just sequestered their emotional need for connection to their girlfriends or their therapist, which is okay, but not, I don't want my wife to do that. I want to be her go-to person, So it's hard to balance all the challenges and complexities of life and keep your marriage or long-term relationship very vibrant and strong. It's hard to do, especially if you have big goals. But one of your goals, in my opinion, should be, in my opinion, the most important goal is, how do I keep my marriage at the top, like rocking, because it helps everything operate better.
Mm-hmm. So I feel like for me personally, I've been on both sides of the spectrum. I was the workaholic who sacrificed everything and also, went through divorce the first time, where the partner I had chosen wanted the stability and basically said, burn your shake business, stop being a celebrity trainer and go be a farmer rep. And to me, that was like falling on the sword.
Yeah.
And so I think it was, in that case, it was either you're on the team or off the team for the entrepreneurial journey. In the sense of a high achiever and somebody who doesn't have the stability of like, this is my 9 to 5. I show up to work, I clock in, I clock out, I go into a situation and now work turns off and now family turns on. And then I can coach on the weekends because I don't restart working for that business, which is predictable, until Monday at 9. It's a little bit of a different dynamic. And I think it takes the right type of partnership, but it also takes the right type of awareness and communication. Do you see more struggle and strife in those types of relationships, or do you see more struggle and strife in the predictable ones?
I think a couple of things there. The predictable ones have different challenges in that. So I would say across the board, everybody has challenges, right?
Right.
It's just like pick your challenge. And the routine people who are like the 9 to 5ers who are like, hey, let's try to make this as predictable as possible. That just becomes rote.
Yeah.
And that becomes one of their challenges, is there's no aliveness in that. It becomes automating everything, the self-driving car, so to speak, the self-driving relationship, where I just come home, I do the thing, I can kind of check out inside of this system to get a break, and I'm safe. I've got financial security. I've got a wife. I've got kids, but I'm kind of not really here. I don't think that's great, right?
No.
And so, but people can do that for decades, dude. Right? You've seen that as well, and I don't think that's fulfillment at all.
No.
Yeah.
No.
And so the kind of more, we work all the time and there's no shut off valve. That's harder, I think, to truly prioritize the relationship and the kids, if you have kids, because the business is all consuming and there's no off button, and I can work as many hours as I want. The to-do list never ends. And partners of people who are in that they start to feel alone, not considered, not prioritized. And then all they need to do is speak up about that. And hopefully that offers the system a course correction.
Right. I think sometimes the speaking up piece can be delayed.
Yeah.
Until the casket, or the casket's a nice little play on words.
Yeah, right.
The gasket blows, where it's like this building up of steam and then just boom, I'm on out.
Yeah.
And the other side of that, for that high achieving entrepreneur who's like, I'm building all this for us. And I've found myself in a pretty relatable situation where at times it's been like, oh crap, I was neglectful. I didn't realize it because I was head down in flow here. I need a home run. I need a trip to Hawaii. When the base hits could be amazing, especially in their love language. Something as simple as like, let's take the night and go make a nice meal and have a little dance party. Working these things into the system where these meetings are just as important as dating. What would you say to somebody who's in the situation where they're like, things are a little bit on fire right now. I want to get back to rebuilding, and so does my partner. Where do you start?
Yeah. I mean, you start with an honest conversation, right? It's always got to be communication. How do we just talk about what's occurring? My feelings, your feelings, my thoughts, your thoughts. And the longer you put those conversations off, the more you'll have resentment creep in, which is pretty toxic to a relationship. So, yeah, you got to speak up. That's the place to start. And you might start with yourself and just be like, can I be honest with me? And then you might tell a friend or a therapist, and then you can bring it to your spouse, but you always got to bring it to your partner as soon as possible. The longer you wait, the more resentment builds. Yeah.
And with these partners, if you're looking at this situation and you're like, okay, we are verbalizing the conflict and we're trying to find connection. How do you really turn that conflict into connection rather than having things collapse?
Well, you have to have that kind of view, first of all.
Both
it's really
being
nice.
team players.
Yeah, just like, hey, we understand there's tension here from time to time, and that's not a problem. That's inherently doesn't mean we're not meant to be together or you're bad and wrong. It doesn't mean anything other than, gosh, there's tension and we can't seem to find our way. Big deal. So there's lots of tools and resources in life to find your way. From therapy to coaching to books to podcasts like this, thousands of resources now. There's no excuse, really.
That's right.
You just have to have the desire and willingness to say, let's lean in to this uncomfortable conversation. And then, of course, it does help to have a process, listening effectively, speaking effectively. We have shared agreements that it's not cool to blame or point fingers. We have agreements maybe that we're not going to run away from the conversation. We have agreements that we're going to repair if it goes south and turns into a nasty conflict. We will always 100% of the time come back and finish. So there's a lot of things we can do to buffer things because we're animals. We're social mammals, and we do need guardrails because we act like complete assholes and jerks sometimes. And we got to contain that, right? And that's why we together as a team have agreements and principles that we live by to contain our acting out, because we all act kind of young and dumb sometimes in a partnership.
Unquestionably. And I think one of the biggest reframes, I guess I would use, that has shifted in my awareness in these last few years has been the idea of love and respect, and understanding the two are extremely different, although they harmonize together, where at times people will be like, but I love you. I never stopped loving you. The love has never changed, but their actions lack respect. And so I'd love to get your take, as an expert on that difference and how those types of things play out in the day-to-day.
Yeah, I really like your distinction there, because people use love as an excuse all the time. And I always say to people, love is never enough to make a relationship work. It's just not. You need so much more than that. I can love you and kind of hate you at the same time, or dislike you, or not respect you. And if, again, another thing we can talk about, honey, I love you, but I'm starting to lose respect for you because you haven't worked in 6 months, or you haven't taken care of your body in 6 months, or you're totally absent at the dinner table. And I'm starting to not value your presence here because you're gone. You're on your phone. You're just staring at your screen, and I'm losing respect for you. And that can be a really big wake-up call to hear.
Yeah.
Right? My wife said to me once, many, many years ago, when our kids were super young, and it was just like deal mode. You know what I'm talking about, right? It's like no sleep, and you got a couple kids, and it's just nonstop, and it's a struggle to find each other as a couple. And she said, we were standing in the kitchen, and she said, I don't feel loved by you. And I was like, oh, it was right to the heart.
And a twist.
Yeah, and a little bit of a twist. And I was like, dude, I couldn't defend myself because I loved her.
Right.
Of course I love you, honey, but you don't feel loved by me. That's a really different thing. And I can't argue her experience. I'm like, whoa. So that was it kind of lit a fire under my ass to change my behavior, because I was kind of being busy and tired and had all kinds of valid reasons, right? Why I'm not showing up for you. But sometimes we need to just say that. I don't feel respected by you. I don't feel loved by you. Whatever it is that will get through to our partner.
And when we're the ones who receive that, in many cases, the first response is the protective defensiveness of like, I'm doing everything. I'm not sleeping and working my butt off to try to build this for our family. And I'm putting family first here. After we get through that stuff, which should be the natural primal response, is there standard first steps? Is it the communication and the planning out and the mapping? And, I think there's this delusion from reality TV and things like that of like, hey, when you've got ABC catering every little detail of your plan and your work is put aside and your kids, it's almost the equivalent of the meditating in the cave, right?
Yeah.
In this dense 3D soup of dating and marriage and kids, where do you go from there when you receive information like that? So let's say a listener sitting home, he's like, yeah, I heard that recently and I got defensive. I don't know what the heck to do. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to blow this whole thing up, but I want to take that first step, but do it from a place of still loving and respecting and trusting myself. What do you usually think is a good first step in that moment when you hear from your partner, hey, I don't feel loved?
Yeah. Well, let's say you got defensive, because most people aren't going to be able to stop their defensiveness, especially an ambitious high achiever type. We get very defensive. How dare you?
Right.
But later, let's say an hour later, and we've had time to journal and reflect and listen to Kyle's podcast, for example, we're like, okay, getting centered.
Yeah.
We want to realize that what caused the defensiveness in the first place is something came toward me that doesn't jive with who I think I am, my ego structure. And that is usually going to elicit a shame response, because shame comes up when I feel attacked, judged, criticized, blamed. That I'm not doing it right. I'm not doing enough. For a lot of high performers, it triggers that not enough button.
Right.
And a lot of that is shame. And so we can come back we can feel our shame, acknowledge like, okay, I feel ashamed that according to my partner, I'm not showing up full throttle, and they feel bad. That brings up shame. So now I'm going to bring that to my partner and say, look, thank you for the comment. It really hurt. Because I went into a whole shame thing. Instead of feeling my shame, I just got defensive and I blamed you back.
Right.
And what I'm committed to is actually being with my shame. I really want to take your feedback in. I value your honesty. I don't want you to hold back here. I don't need you to take care of me. I don't, please, of course you can be kind in your delivery, of course.
Yeah.
But overall, I need this to become a better version of myself. And I want to do better here if you're feeling like I'm falling down, right? So we can take responsibility. We can step into a leadership seat and say, yeah, okay, I'm taking it in. And then I might ask questions. Where do you think I'm falling down? Because over here, I have the story I have going about myself is look at all the things I'm doing, but clearly there's something you think I'm not doing. And usually for a woman, let's say in this example, it's, I just don't feel your heart anymore, man. You're so stressed. Yes, you're providing for us. Thank you so much. But guess what? Where are you? I just don't feel your heart. I don't feel like you're with me. I don't feel your presence. I feel like your phone and your work are more important than me. And that sucks. And I want to hear that feedback, right?
Right.
So that's going to help us move beyond defensiveness. Another thing we can do that I like to coach people on in the moment of defensiveness, a little room you can give yourself is to say, Kyle, I feel like defending myself right now, but I'm not going to. Mm-hmm. So you can name that that's what's occurring, but then you're going to set it aside and actually keep listening. And then I'm going to do my best to listen until my partner feels understood.
I love that. One of my mom's pieces of wisdom over the years were kids that she would get into led to a lot of, it was basically birthed through a lot of conflict with my parents. Mm-hmm. We're just not feeling like we're on the same page. And she would really get into this repetition of, it's not what you say, but how you say it. Mm. And now that, they're in their 80s, my parents, and still married 50 years or plus at this point, and I sit back and I go, there's some real depth and truth in that. Mm-hmm. What do you think is a good tool when people want to communicate those messages more from the heart space than from the head space? What's a good tool that, listeners at home could really tap into if they're like, hey, I need to communicate this message to my partner, but I don't want to do it in a way that they just get that FU defensiveness, but they get that openness to like, okay, I'm willing to take in and receive this information a little bit better and say it better and do it in a way where, you know, let's just say it's at home. There's not a third party mediator or a referee.
Yeah. Well, I always like to start with context. So again, we ideally are in a relationship where it's okay to talk about hard things.
Right.
We agree we can talk about the relationship. We agree we're going to have conflict and we're going to always repair it. So if all that's in place, it's going to go better.
Yeah.
So that's where we want to start. And then we can lead with vulnerability, I think is my favorite thing to do, which can be disarming. Our vulnerability can also be triggering for our partner.
Right.
But if I lead with something like, hey, I'm scared, or I feel nervous to talk about this with you, that's a really nice way in. Another thing is if we start with personal responsibility and then empathy, that is huge. Or if we start with just straight up empathy. So that can look like, hey, Kyle, I know you're really stressed right now at work. And I know you're very busy. And I know you have so much on your mind. And you got this going on, and I'm really specific. And you got that going on. And there's this thing with your company. And if I acknowledge you and I empathize with you first, you're feeling like I actually get you and care about you. Then I can bring in, and Kyle, I'm feeling pretty alone over here and I miss you. That's going to land very differently than work is more important to you, Kyle. You're always working. What is your problem, Kyle? You know, that's just immediately you're going to be defensive with that. So these are just ideas. And with responsibility, I can own, then empathize. I can say, hey, Kyle, I just want to say I've been absent.
Right.
I haven't been advocating for our relationship. I've been consumed with my own busyness and stuff and the kids over here. And I can imagine for you, that's felt hurtful. You feel alone. You feel kind of like I'm not here for you. Then I can kind of go into my thing.
I love that. And I think this builds a great foundation for first your partnership, but I think again, then it expands out to that into children and work and your friendships. So expanding that out into teenagers, or maybe a little younger than teenagers, when you're dealing with situations where there's not full frontal lobe development.
Yeah.
It seems like there's similarities, but differences. Like what, I think you're a great walking embodiment and an example of, I've made this a huge priority and I'm real and raw and honest, because you have kids and again, you're playing this expert level, the video game of life. What type of frameworks have you found to be valuable when utilizing these principles with your kids?
Yeah, I think to understand the difference between my relationship with my wife and my kids. So just to start with that, relationship with my wife, eye level equals, right? Ideally shared power, fully collaborative, shared transparency. Kids, totally different. I have more power. I get to set the rules in terms of how this thing goes. When we get into a snag, I'm always repairing 100% of the time, initiating that repair. I'm never asking my kid to repair with me, even up to a certain age. Like, no way. That's my job as a parent. So if I kind of understand some of those basic differences that seem obvious, but some parents kind of blend the two and forget because they get hooked by their kids' behavior. One of the most powerful things that my students over the years and clients have told me after me sort of offering this tool to them is, man, now that I'm listening until my kids feel understood instead of lecturing, my relationship with them is totally different. And that means, again, the parent gets very good at not fixing, not rescuing, not giving advice. I say no fracking, no fixing, no rescuing, no advice giving, no complaining, and no killing their experience. That's fracking. So no fracking. Instead, you're listening until they feel understood. LUFU. And kids really appreciate when a parent moves from advice to validation. It's a game changer. Like, hey, honey, it makes sense. You're stressed about the kids at school and your grades, and you just want to be alone. That totally makes sense. And I see you there, and I'm here for you. Versus, you shouldn't feel that way. Like, dude, what are you talking about? You have tons of friends. You're doing great in school. And just trying to like fix and change because I'm uncomfortable with their feelings. Like parents have to increase their capacity for discomfort and feelings. And the less you do that as a parent, the more you're asking your kids to stuff it, to like not feel, to, because they're going to feel shut down by you because you can't handle their experience. So parents must get better at listening, and they must increase their own capacity for feelings and discomfort.
I love that. That's important, not easy.
Yep.
A lot of this stuff is not the quick fix, easy thing. It's not you can just say 1, 2, 3, kaboom, and everything is great, because usually 1, 2, 3, kaboom is everything blows up.
Yeah, right.
So if we're looking at that relationship and we want these kids to feel, express their emotions, there's a grayscale here between feel and express your emotions and stay wallowing and living in that depression and not taking any kind of action.
Mm-hmm.
At what point do you think it's a valuable thing within that communication, similar to the way you would with a spouse who does have the full frontal lobe development, to say like, you're just stuck in victim mode at this point, and let's help get you out of it?
Mm-hmm.
Is there any thoughts or framework on that when dealing with kids? Because
right,
it's a very sensitive thing where you don't want to be the root cause of their 20 years of therapy from that point going forward.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I always say, well, if that's the dynamic going on in the home, let's just say, well, it got set up years ago by the parents' incompetence, ineptitude, lack of skill, lack of self-awareness. The parent somewhere along the way didn't do a great job and either modeled victim consciousness in their own lives, or they continued to behave in a way that had their kids feel like a victim, learned helplessness, or whatever the thing is. And so I always say, parents, this isn't about self-blame. This is about personal responsibility. Is like, how did I contribute to my kid being this way? And what can I do to fix it, change it, et cetera, right? Yeah, and I think tough love this is where, in my opinion, the loving kids is challenge and support. That's love. It's not just support. A lot of parents think love equals just support and no challenge. And I'm interested in challenge and support. So challenge is boundaries. No, you don't get to have an extra cookie. No, you don't get to stay up till midnight on your screen. No, the phones don't, you're helping pay for your phone. You don't get full access to social media until you're X age. So if parents are actually really holding the line with a lot of these things very firmly in their own body, kids totally don't care. They submit and relinquish authority to you, and it's not a big power struggle. Because it turns into a power struggle when kids know that if I just know the right way to poke the parent, I'll get what I want. And they'll just push and push and push, especially teenagers and 2-year-olds. But again, that's back to the parents holding the frame, holding the line.
I love that. And that's that harmony of do no harm, take no shit sort of when you're addressing kids. And when we bring it back to the spiritual journey and the harmony, I find one of the hardest thing for me to handle as a parent in the dynamics of those relationships is when I see pieces of myself within my kids that are my shadows.
Oh yeah.
And I work in this space in some capacity, so I have that level of self-awareness. I know a lot don't, but are trying their best to get better at it. So when you get that self-awareness and you see a habit of your kid and you're like, wow, that is definitely a shadow that is still within me, and that's something that I did but only worse as a kid.
Yeah.
Thoughts on handling those types of situations?
Dude, you're spot on. I mean, the example is my son. He's 16 and he's amazing, and he's forgetful. He has big plans and doesn't follow through. He has like a big idea about what he wants to do on a Saturday, and then he sits and reads fiction all day. And that triggers the shit out of me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, what's the work for me here? Right? Because he's just reflecting back how I distract and dissociate away from what I claim is important to me. I have big plans that I don't follow through on, right? I talk a big game and I don't deliver. And I have my ways of checking out. I don't do fiction books, but I do my phone, right? Or I'll just scroll, like check my email every 5 seconds because there's some important email that's coming in, right? And he's helping me. He's helping me, and through my wife, because she doesn't have the same thing at all. So she actually is more balanced there, that it doesn't trigger her the way it does me. It doesn't get me.
Right.
And so she can be my ally and say, honey, you're getting hooked by him again. And so I'm with you. I like to see that my kids, places that trigger me are like my disowned parts that I haven't loved and integrated yet. And the more I can do that in me, the less of a problem it is out there.
So in those moments, like let's take a specific situation that you brought up, which is you see your kid is disassociating and just going to the fiction book, not actually getting his stuff done. And it's creating that trigger within you. In the perfect world, because again, we're going to respond the way we're going to respond.
Yeah.
But once you hit that moment of, aha, this is a spiritual opportunity for me. Where do you start there?
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad we're talking about this because it's pretty fresh for me. So I think what I want to do, I'm not going to say what I've done because I haven't done a lot here. But what I want to do is, again, my wife is a great ally. I'd talk to her probably first and just say, hey, can we get a shared reality? This is what's getting activated here. And apparently I'm not really liking or loving myself when I claim I want something and then I do a different behavior. What can I do to just appreciate that's me right now? Like, this is how I am. I don't need to be farther along or somebody else or do it like Kyle does it or someone else that's like better than me. This is where I'm at on my journey. And number one, can that be okay? I'm right here. It's very humbling. And then number two, what do I need to do to change this? And it might mean that I need to go back to a period of time where I it might have been that, if I think about it, it's like my dad judging me. My dad was very into performance. And that's kind of the recipe I got as a kid, was this is handed down, right? From dad to son and now me to my son.
Yeah. And
what can I do to be less about performance here? Like, to my 16-year-old son, the old message is like, you're loved if you do the to-do list, which is very performative, right?
That's right.
Because that's what I got. Instead, it's, I love you regardless of whether you do the to-do list or not. And what can I do to help you and help myself just take one step in the right direction of what I claim I care about or want? I don't know. These are ideas. I'm open to other ideas from you, of course.
I love it. And to me, one of the biggest problems in these moments when we're sitting here with our kids is finding that harmony between, I don't want to do things the same way that my dad did, and my dad doesn't want me to do things the same way that he did. Once they get to that certain level of, having some introspection and some time that's passed, and they're now not raising you as a kid, they want better for you and your future generations. But at the same other side of it, we are in a 3D capitalistic dynamic where I don't want my son working at fast food at 30, living in my house, stuck in this situation. Yeah. That's, like old school, going, Mom, where's the meatloaf? I don't want that dynamic. So it is tricky, and it is an embodiment practice. And I think at its core essence, so much of it is focusing on, how can I bring out the greatness in you? And how can I do it in a way that I also am understanding where you are in your developmental path? Like, there are moments, I think, where I forget the most is when my son's playing hockey. He's 11, puts all of his gear on. I'm watching the game as both a parent and a fan. And with the gear, they look way bigger and they look way older. And the way they're skating, I'm like a baby giraffe when I'm on ice skates. And, I was an athlete, but I didn't play that sport, so I can't really guide it. But when I'm watching them move, I forget that I'm watching a little kid, an 11-year-old. I'm watching, McKinnon watching NHL.
Right.
And I struggle with that balance between, hey, leave it all on the ice, whatever it takes. It's not about whether you win or lose, but it's that you showed up as a teammate, and all the lessons that come from the confidence of giving it everything. But where he excels further than me is that he is at this level of centeredness where they could lose by 10 and he's the same happy smiling kid as if they lose by 10 or if they win by 10.
That's amazing.
It's profound. And it's very Taoist, just naturally in his way. But I also don't want as Taoist in this capitalistic society to be like, hey, you also do need to hit a certain level if you do want to get to a certain career, build this specific thing. And it's a tricky piece for me.
Yeah.
I'm curious in those moments when you're dealing with these types of things or advising others on how they should handle their kid and not try to have their kid just relive their dreams. Is it usually just focusing and starting from a place of compassion and empathy first?
Probably. Yeah, I like that. I mean, it's never a good idea to judge our kids based on some performance metrics about how the world works. Like you're saying, they need reality, which is, this world works in this capitalistic way. There's grades and there's performance. And if you want to get a job, you need to behave a certain way, like all the common sense, metrics, of course. And not, having the view that you said, not living my life through my kids, my unlived dreams through them, right? Projecting all that onto them and say, you need to be this way. Like, cause that's kind of what I got from my dad. Yeah. And of course I'm going to undermine that whole thing because I can't ever be my dad. I'll lose at that game every time, even though I'll try. Right. I tried for years. But yeah, the more, look, according to Dan Siegel, who's a primary attachment researcher and just one of my mentors, the hallmark of a securely attached relationship with your kids is the parent's willingness and ability to self-reflect and make meaning out of their own life and their own trauma history. Because they're projecting less onto their kids. And so there's going to be more compassion. There's going to be more understanding. There's going to be more trust in their journey and how they play it, which is going to be different than how I would do it. So I think all of these things can help.
I love it. I want to pull this back into our partners, our kings, our queens, depending on where we're at in our situation. And I think in relationship, there's a fine line between bypassing and real growth. And how in relationship do you know if you're growing or if you're actually just spiritually hiding?
Dude, this is so common. Well, a lot of people, because, psychedelics are all the rage now. So people will get their latest download from their psychedelic journey, which is fine. I'm a pro psychedelic person, but how are you living your life every day? It's just in how the daily living goes. You can have all the profound insights and get all the cool teachings and have ChatGPT give you the astrology, gene keys, and all the readings you want about how you are and how to improve your relationship. But you still are the one looking in your wife or partner's eyes, listening to them when you're triggered. That's on you. Right. What are you going to do? Who are you going to be in that moment and the next moment and the next moment? So that's why I love marriage as a path or long-term partnership and parenting as a path, because there's just very little hiding. It's hard to hide. You can, but it's harder, right? Our stuff is our shadow is just going to get pushed out and to be reckoned with, to be dealt with. And with two willing partners, it's an extraordinary journey. It's amazing. But with lack of awareness and one partner's into it and one partner's not, or we're both kind of blind to it, we're going to be just very angry and resentful and acting out everywhere. And then we're going to go to the shaman or the psychedelic journey and we're going to get relief and it's going to feel good. And I think it's very hard to bypass in a long-term relationship. I often do cleanup for Burning Man people and people in psychedelic journeys who've been bypassing, and I'm like, nope, this is developmental work. And developmental work is slow. It's arduous. It takes time. It's like your son learning hockey. He didn't just go out on the ice and just kick ass. He's been at that for a few years, right?
That's right.
And he might have fallen down when he was 2, many freaking times. So he's earning the confidence over time, rep after rep, to become a skater who can hang on the ice, right? That's no different in a relationship. It's day in, day out developmental work.
I love it. I have this empower process I use with all my clients that once we start focusing on mastery is the M, and then we propel, we start getting momentum on it. From there, so much of this is about optimizing, which is making the conditions work for you. And I love how you brought up this awareness of like, look, what works in Kyle's house isn't going to work in Jayson's house. Let alone, you probably don't even know what works in Kyle's house. You know what works on Kyle's social media when he's putting up these awesome posts. Everybody smile and let's pretend that 24/7, 365 are like this.
Yeah, right.
So making the conditions work for you, to me, is the key, because you goes from me consciousness into we consciousness, which is a further along part of the spiritual journey, in my opinion. And, you know, we have to think in terms of we. Now, a lot of people think in terms of we and say compromise, like, you know, we're instead of one who's whole, worthy, complete, another one who's whole, worthy, complete, that like we need this intertwined leaning on each other in the capacities of the relationship. But it seems like from what I've learned from you that so much of this is you show up as this whole, worthy, complete being. Your partner shows up as this whole, worthy, complete being, but then we do this dance. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, I might say it a little differently. I like that. I might say we're showing up as these neurotic, challenged, compromised people with a history, trauma history, and we're gonna dance, and ideally we're gonna have a framework to dance inside of. So it's not just a no holds barred, no rules here, just be emotional and just act out all the time. We know we're up against our history and our nervous systems and our brains and the way we're conditioned and all the things. So, how are we going to dance? How do we want to dance? How do we want to play this video game? How do we get to the next level of this video game? And one of the things I guess I'm learning over and over again that from my wife, and something that we now adhere to, is this principle we call standing for 3, which means I take a stand for me and my own success and me being who I am. I take a stand for you, your success, and you being who you are. And I take a stand for the relationship. All 3, standing for 3. And you do the same with me. And that starts to become indestructible, right? Because a lot of people get caught up in insecure relationships where I'll do something that's good for me because, hey, I'm being true to myself, right? I'm honoring who I am because I'm on the spiritual journey and this is what God told me, or this is what the medicine told me, or whatever. I'm being true to me. And then we're irreverent about the impact on you. Why would I do something that's good for me but bad for you and bad for us, right? You don't get to play that game in a long-term relationship. I don't think. I want to be in the game that's like, this is good for me and it's good for you. It might trigger you at times. It might upset you. It might make you uncomfortable, but it's ultimately good for you and it's good for us. And my wife and I are the only people that get to decide what that is and how that is, right? Kyle doesn't get to decide. A therapist doesn't get to decide. My wife and I get to create whatever the hell we want. It's our relationship, right? Relationship's like a myth. Marriage is kind of a myth. It's like, we're just making this up. So why not make it up to work for everybody here?
I love that. That was similar to parenting. When my daughter was born, I called both my parents, and the first thing I said to them was, look, I see the umbilical cord. I see the baby sitting here, but there's no freaking manual. I am literally learning in this moment that you winged this whole thing. Yeah. I'm super sorry. I sucked. I love you. I sucked. I'm sorry. It was like my first authentic apology to my parents in that moment, which is, you are making the conditions work for you. And that's beautiful. And, kind of bringing this full circle, I'm curious, what does harmony mean to you right now?
I think for me, it's like me being connected to myself and connected to the most important people in my life and connected to my heart and like regulated, connected, and moving through the world from that place. And I just think it's like you could say flow, but I'm at my best when I'm in some kind of place like that.
I speaking my love language, man. I struggle with distilling down, as a polymath, someone who studies and is fascinated and always curious about all these things of like, what the heck do you do, man? Like for work even. Yeah. And a lot of what it's been distilled down to is I help people get out of their head and into their heart. Mm-hmm. And from that place, then it's whatever the specific issue is. And it seems like your approach to the complexity of relationship is exactly just that, which is you're in that harmony and operating from that space.
Yeah, I would agree. And I'm really like you. I'm so care about moving people from disconnection to connection, and head to heart or disembodiment to embodiment. Because that's been my journey, right? I was very disconnected and now I'm more connected. I still get disconnected, of course. But I want to live in a more connected world. Yeah.
So on that journey, what's a moment that you trusted yourself more than fear?
Okay. So many moments, but the one that's coming to mind is when I finally decided to ask my wife to marry me. I had broken up with her twice. We had dated for 3 years, so 2 breakups in that 3 years. And honestly, it was just fear. I broke up with her twice, repeating my historical 10-year pattern of like, you're wrong. I don't know if this is right for me. And she was gracious enough to leave the door cracked open that second time, and she was almost done. And I just, through a meditation retreat, a month-long meditation retreat, a powerful session with a therapist, a lot of journaling, a lot of being with myself, realized I was in fear, just choosing the fear path and ego. Like, I got to protect myself. There's this magical place called perfection that me and a woman can get to that it's just like, no, that's fear, man. That's all that is. And then I realized I was about to lose her in fear, but I was in my heart and in clarity that I was like, all right, I had to get really clear. Like, I choose this woman and I want to marry her. And so I had to really work with myself, and I came back to her and said that. And within a couple of weeks we're engaged and married a few months later.
I love it. She knew your connection to baseball and said, "Oh, there's 3 strikes in baseball."
That's right.
So you got that extra one.
Yeah, I'm going to give him one more micro chance. And she was like, only if he's interested in marriage. Yeah. She wasn't going to be like, I don't even want to talk to you, dude, unless you're like all in.
2 feet in the water, not just one dipped in for a minute.
Yeah.
Last one I got for you. What is the relationship lesson that most people learn too late?
How to repair. Yeah. People, again, don't go into marriage very equipped to, again, we're not taught in school or anywhere else how to do this stuff very well. And so we learn the hard way, but a lot of people don't want to learn, and they make a lot of mistakes and they screw up a lot, and they don't know how to repair that with the other person. And so the gap just continues to widen. They don't know how to deal with resentments. They don't know how to, it's bad. So finally they come in to see you or me, or they start reading and learning, and they're like, oh shit, that could have been really different had I learned how to listen differently and acknowledge impact and take ownership for my part. Yeah.
So I want to add to that a little bit, because there's like a second part to this that I'm really curious your take on, which is my least favorite saying when it comes to anything, because it takes transformation out of the story, which is once a this, always a this, fill in the blank. Like I hate that crap because I look at my own journey and I'm like, I don't know, think, or feel like I'm remotely the same human I was. And I know every cell in my body is replaced every 7 years. So I don't remotely feel like the same human. So I always have that eternal optimistic hope that when someone goes all in over a continued period of time, transformation in anything, as long as all parties involved are interested, is salvageable. And it can go from hanging on just like a sporting game, right? You could be down 3 touchdowns and somehow come back in the fourth quarter, win the championship.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, when it comes down to that too late part, as long as all parties are involved, do you think, and do you have that hope? And have you seen in people where they've come to you where, it would have been ideal that they learned earlier, but if they come all in, that there is hope?
Oh, absolutely. I see it all the time. It's really powerful actually when you see it, right? Just to see people on the brink of, they're like on that razor's edge of it's over. And somehow they see the right coach, they read the right book, they got a little ding on Instagram, who knows? But you know, the trick with like individual work, which is like fitness or money, psychology, whatever, a relationship is 2 people. So to get 2 people on the brink of that cliff to get them to step away from it and actually change is incredible. And I'm working with a couple right now that it was the guy actually literally 2 weeks ago walked out of the house and said, I am done. This is after 35 years of marriage. And she was like, what? And we had been working together for like 6 months. And the next day he came back in the house and said, kind of just kidding. You know, he needed to go do that to be like, I am finished, to realize actually I'm not.
That was the catalyst. That
was it. And she was like, what? Now she has to, of course, rebuild trust, because she's like, I don't know. Are you going to leave tomorrow? But they're like completely changing now. And he's finally he was kind of half-assing it. Yeah. And now he's all in.
It's beautiful. I think a lot of high achievers understand that with your businesses, you can't half-ass your life's work and your passions. It's like, I couldn't half-ass this book. You couldn't half-ass your work and your writing. Right. Like, you got to put the full ass into it. And, and I think maybe that moment of expressing that quantum reality and walking through those doors, just saying, wait a minute, that's the wake up call he needed to realize that wasn't the path he wanted to walk down.
That's right.
Beautiful. So if you're listening at home and this sparks something within you and you want to go deeper with Jayson, therelationshipschool.com, you can follow you on social media at Jayson Gaddis, which I'll put in all the links. Is there any other good pathway that they can connect or should connect with you?
Those are at relationshipschool.com, Jayson Gaddis, Jayson with a Y.
Perfect. Yep. And just make sure, if you're listening at home, subscribe so we can keep walking this path together. And take a breath, let it settle, and see you next time. And Jayson, thank you. This was as much joy as any time I get to hang out with you, and I'm really grateful.
Yeah, thank you, Kyle. Awesome.
All right, my friend, if this episode sparked something in you, don't just wander off into the abyss of the internet. Hit subscribe so you can actually get the good stuff when it drops. And if you're feeling generous or mildly enlightened, leave some love in a review. It takes just 30 seconds, and somehow it feeds the algorithm gods so they know to send more people who really need it. Now, if you want to step deeper into my world, rapidharmony.com is where the real magic lives. Coaching, community, rituals, and a few surprises that are way better than just scrolling around another motivational reel and not doing anything about it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being you. And remember, your inner harmony isn't hiding. It's just waiting for you to pay attention. I'll see you on the next episode. Now go subscribe before you forget.